What does it mean to be out on Earth?
Join two friends as we broaden our small-town perspective and explore the enchanting, hilarious, and unusual interconnections between society, ecology, and queerness. My name is Cricket, my pronouns are they, them.
My name is Ashton, my pronouns are also they, them.
And today we're talking about self-care.
Treat me healthy. We're gonna be alright.
Exactly.
Mac
Is that
Miller's
the
self-care.
Mac Miller
Yeah.
song?
Yeah. You know, it's actually like kind of sad.
Was that his last song?
No, he's coming out with a new album. Postmortem. Anyways.
What would you do if he died and I just like kept putting out?
I mean, if you did it, you have my consent.
Like I make an AI version of you. And
Well,
like, I make it like mess up on the intro.
No. Hey, fuck you. You messed up on the intro.
I know. I'm shifting blame here.
But yeah, we were trying to like think of recent happenings before we started recording. Frankly, we're in a place of not shit is happening.
We're in a place of rescheduling this recording 4 times.
And we are. This being the 4th scheduled one we've had, or the 5th?
I think the 4th.
Okay.
Because we were like, we can record another one this next weekend. And then the next weekend came, and
Mhm.
we didn't. And we were like, let's do it later this week.
And we did not.
And then we did not.
Really.
And now it's coming out tonight. It'll be sat at premiere.
Not at the midnight premiere. I'm screeching. Fuck. So yeah, shout out to Editor Cricket. We love you.
Thank
And you're doing the Lord's work. The
You're
Lord's
just so fucking busy. Like, you've been so busy.
bro. We're I feel like even our personal lives have been just like falls together.
Yeah.
We're just doing something.
I know, exactly. Well, it's because it's the holidays, and it's because we have to,
Yeah. But I am on leave from, I guess it started Saturday. We're recording on Sunday through the 2nd of January. When I say I'm like a work phone turned off. Nobody can contact me. And I have not taken like an actual break from work since I started in April. And so like
That's crazy.
today's our 2nd installment of time.
Yeah.
Of all things related.
Yeah.
Not all things related.
The ticking of time.
The ticking of
passing
time.
Time
Anxiety.
being time. The way that a bunch of people experience time differently.
The way that time makes us view ourselves. I'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, today we're talking a lot about self-care and sort of the myth of self-care, essentially. The modern day myth of self-care.
Yeah. Yeah. The modern day myth of self-care, which I also think is just so relevant because we're hearing it so fucking much, especially right now, especially in January, especially with big transfers of existential power, where we are like feeling a lot of panic and a lot of like, holy shit, what the fuck do I do? And the answer that society is telling us is that we just need to take care of ourselves. We just need to go
Touch grass.
go hang out, which is true. Like we do need to do that, but is that really like the most constructive thing? And like, how can we better benefit? How can we change our definition of self-care to reclaim our time? And I think that's really what this is all about. So, without further ado, I have some people to thank.
Hello.
I've been singing Wicked all fucking day.
And we're back. The way
Elphaba, is that you?
I feel like a professional podcaster, the way I like pulled back.
I know. You're not allowed to do that because you fell asleep during Wicked.
Don't say that on the pod. They're gonna ruin me. And yeah, I fell asleep at Wicked, okay? A 40-hour work week doesn't exist for me. So I was tired, alright? So I fell asleep because the sounds were nice, okay?
And they were.
Because the vibes were conducive for a nap.
Yeah.
And I was full of sweets and popcorn.
Did you get ice cream?
No, but they had my favorites. They had the A&W root beer ice cream. They had bunny tracks.
Okay, I don't know what's going on with people at movies right now, but like, why are they walking the entire time? Why are they getting up?
Bro.
Why are they walking? Why or
Sit
they're
the
running around.
fuck
Sit the fuck down. That
Sit
kid
down.
who was just like scraping his feet, like walking all over. I was
Right.
like, oh my god.
This kid walked right behind
Cynthia
us.
Erivo
Like,
is singing.
sit down
Sit
and pay
down.
her some respect.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Anyways,
People
Ariana,
going up to shit. People getting up to like get more popcorn.
that
get
same
more Coke,
kid
get more.
kept putting the seat up and down and up and
Oh
down because
my
it was the
God.
electronic ones,
Yes.
right? And so you just heard for literally 10 minutes straight.
Yeah.
And I'm not, no, I'm kind of a cunt. I, at one point, was like, if it doesn't stop in the next 10 seconds, I'm gonna say something.
I know. I was like,
And-
Ashton's about to.
Yes.
say
And it
something.
stopped literally right as I was like out my breaking point. But
Okay,
anyways,
I need to thank these fucking patrons.
oh my god, yeah, we
Okay.
really said, oh my
I just
god,
started
that
talking
was
about
fully
Wicked.
like 5 minutes ago. And
Oh
out of me
God.
about fucking falling asleep.
Okay. Welcome to and thank you to Bradward, Okay Dad, Stephanie Joseph, Wyatt Armstrong, Shell Wagner, Lynn Sue, Mary Smileyface, MK, Carolina Block, Keki Radams, Kelly Erickson, Katankwa, and Greg Jenko, Bailey Veda, Compost Bailey, Remy Addict, Emma Sheffield Delegard, Tig, Let's Have a Booba, Anna, Ren the Ren, Casey, Emma, Natalie, Jenna Cook, Margot Roberts, Maddock, and Sibley, and Megan White.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi. I love you guys. I was thinking about you guys earlier. You know, I love all these people. Thank you so much for loving us and listening to us and supporting us.
Yeah.
It's like awesome. If you would like to join our Patreon, join for $5 a month, join for $1 a month. We have video episodes, we have bonus episodes, we have people on there hanging out. So
Sending forehead kisses to patrons only.
yeah,
So
only.
if you
Prepare your
aren't a patron,
foreheads.
these are not for you. Sorry. Anyways. No, I already gave them earlier.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna do it again. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't know how people feel about the sound, you know.
Yeah, that's fair.
But you know, we did say like 10 minutes ago, without further ado, and then kept talking. So, without further ado.
Without further ado, here I go. I will begin. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the origins of self-care as like a social movement, but also just like the origins in general. I'm really excited. So the main source that I have is, which I think you also use a little bit of, we use a lot of the same sources, which is a good thing. Because we're able to like conversate about it. So I'm excited.
That and it like lends to, I think, a cohesiveness, just in like thought throughout the episode.
Yeah.
So because admittedly, I don't usually read your notes, so I'm a little like caught off guard. This time, I kind of read your notes.
My notes are good.
They're,
I know, I'm excited.
so I'm excited.
Okay, so my main source was Reclaiming the Radical Politics of Self-Care by Gina Kim and Sammy Schalk. And in our last episode, we discussed time as an experience that changes a lot from person to person. And we talked about how time is inextricably linked to capitalism. And I think that if you haven't listened to that one yet, you should go do that because it's like, it really is a precursor.
Yeah.
Like we're building
A foundational text, if you will, to this episode.
Yeah.
So,
And you put your whole pussy into that. Like, that was... You were like, let me tell the entire history of capitalism real quick in, like, 30 minutes. Like, that's crazy.
y'all, when I was writing those notes, I was locked the fuck in. I had, like, genuinely, like, 8 windows open, each one with, like, 4 different tabs.
Yeah.
I was not playing,
You were
but
in it.
it was so fun.
I love it.
But I did feel like kind of, like I was just kind of on a soapbox last episode, so I'm hoping to be a bit more, like, today.
Okay, me too. So, self-care today, I'm going to give like a brief overview. So, I'm trying to show that self-care doesn't really mean what you think it does. I think that we're both going to do that today, but without doing any research for this, like, what did you think? What was your definition of self-care? Because I do feel like you use that word a lot.
I do. And I use it in a context that is not like what true self-care means. So whenever I say it, I'm usually referring to like, for my bearded girlies out there, maintaining a beard is hard as fuck. It takes a lot of time, a lot of attention, and to some degree like skill. And so when I like am like trimming my beard, for example, I refer to that as self-care. Or if I'm like plucking my eyebrows, or you know, anything like that, anything that's like, which ironically is like cosmetic or aesthetic, I refer to as self-care.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when I take a bath, I refer to that as like quote unquote self-care.
Yeah.
But what's funny is like I don't consider like knitting self-care, even though it's very much self-care.
Yeah.
So yeah, how about you?
Self-care for me is like some sort of like quick way to be restored in some way. Like I think that's how I probably used it before researching this, is like, oh, I need a freaking self-care day, which now I've started to say rot day, which I think is even better. Like, oh, I need to go rot, which is just like me sitting on the couch
Doing whatever
watching
the
a
fuck I want to
movie,
do.
like sipping on the packs, probably not doing anything with my hands, or not
No.
even knitting, not
Damn,
even like
really?
not on my phone,
Oh
like
my
literally
God.
just rotting, probably getting some really good food to go and just like eating it and then laying there. Like that is rot, and that is restorative. Like truly, like that gets me going. That keeps me
Yeah.
going. Yeah. But the thing about that is I get really stinky while I'm doing that, so it's not grooming at all. Like I'm just like ignoring every bodily thing about myself to just
Really?
like lay there.
That's fair. I think it's interesting how we are on the opposite end of the spectrum there. But I also think that has a lot to do with like how I was raised. Like my dad, for example, every Sunday night he would carve out like an hour to an hour and a half to like give himself an in-depth manicure, like paraffin wax treatment, cuticle clipping, the whole nine. And so I was always raised in a home where grooming and that kind of thing was a ritual. It was something that you like carved out time for, and it's something that I still practice in a lot of ways, and it is pretty mindful time. Like
Yeah.
I am usually like got some music on or I'm listening to a podcast, but oftentimes I get lost in like thought while I do it, and so
Yeah.
I don't know. Yes, it is like aesthetic and cosmetic, but at the same time, it's kind of a ritual, and so in some ways, it is
It's mindful.
very
It's
nourishing
really,
for me. Yeah, to like
this
just,
is my body. I love my body.
and I'm like
And
paying such close attention to it, for like when I usually don't. Like I'm usually just moving so much that I don't
Yeah.
slow down enough. So it's nice to like really get up close personal and be like, hey, bro,
yeah.
looking good. How are we doing today? You know, and then just like the way that I feel more confident going through my day-to-day when like my beard's trimmed or like I've like groomed my eyebrows well or something. Like I don't know. Like, it is self-care in a lot
Yeah,
of
you
ways.
just feel more confident.
Yeah,
You feel,
yeah. So
Yeah.
I love that shit.
Yeah. And like I think everyone has their own little definition of self-care right now. But it's interesting in how it's like always the antithesis to exhaustion. Like it's like, oh, I'm exhausted. I need to like do this now so that I feel better, so that I cannot be exhausted again, so that I can keep doing the thing that's making me exhausted.
Yup.
And that's what we're going to talk about. So
we're gonna get into it.
I have some self-care etymology, I guess. So the term self-care, as we know today, really entered into the zeitgeist in 2016 when a loose definition of actions that benefit your health and well-being or mental preparedness kind of came into that definition. I think that a lot of this has changed into an alternative way to justify grooming or spending time away, spending alone time. And Kim and Shock say that the self-care phenomenon was due in part to the 2016 election, as people were grappling with ways to deal with anxiety and distressing emotions. And I think that's certainly true. I think I'm seeing that a lot now too. Just in like looking at self-care and how it's being used right now, it's very much like in opposition to that stress and like, oh, I'm feeling so much existential dread right now, like what the fuck do I do to get out of it? And then people are using self-care, maybe not in the same way that they used it in 2016, because I feel like in 2016 that was like also entering the era of like beauty gurus.
I was just gonna say that era of self-care felt very like face mask, spa night coded.
Exactly.
You know, like light a candle, get a bath bomb, glass of wine with you, like that type of shit.
Right. Right. Which is also interesting because it's like those are things women do a lot of the times, and it's like like, what the fuck is men's self-care?
Stop. I
Is
was
that
literally just
entire-
thinking about the gender aspects of self-care.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, why is self-care something that only women can do from a consumer point of view, I guess? I don't know. But in that way, with all of this, like, self-care talk on social media in 2016, Kim and Shock talk about self-care as a performance, as something that is made to be done so other people can see it. So as the term spread around the internet, self-care came to be known as a way to take care of yourself with the intention to show off to others while you do it. I remember seeing this video of this girlie like meditating, but she was like holding the phone out like this, and she's like meditating while she's recording herself, and that's just so fucking funny. Like,
She's living in the moment.
She's not. She's recording herself. Like, recording yourself meditate is so funny to me.
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah. And so that's like kind of that example, like recording your morning routine. Like, this is my.
I hate that shit.
This is my 5 to 9 after my 9 to 5. Like, this is my morning. This is my how I prepare to go to work, and this is how I do self-care, and this is how I integrate self-care into every single day. And then a morning routine is like so unrealistic. Like, you're only doing it to like show off to everybody how put together you are.
I don't have a morning routine because every morning is different. I'm waking up at a different time.
Exactly.
In different conditions.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm not eating at all. Sometimes I'm not medicating myself.
Right.
Sometimes I'm just raw dogging the day.
Exactly.
Like, I don't have a ritual, unfortunately.
No.
Maybe I should, but I don't because it's not realistic for me.
Yeah. My rituals, like, I don't have routines in general. Like, I don't think I have a single routine that I follow.
Well, I eat the same breakfast every fucking day.
That's insane.
Really?
I could never do
Oh,
that.
I eat the same thing every single day.
Oh my god. What is it?
So I have 3 scrambled eggs, scrambled how you taught me.
Nice.
2 hash browns.
If you don't know how to scramble eggs,
Bitch.
watch a Gordon Ramsay video.
It's so fucking
They're so
It changes the taste of the egg somehow.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's because, anyways, I'm sure some chemical reaction that happens in the pan. But,
the egg self-care.
shut the fuck up. But eggs, so yeah, 3 scrambled eggs, 2 hash browns, a banana, and a cup of coffee.
Wow.
That's it. Every day.
That's crazy. I have no idea. I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm about to eat for breakfast.
What?
Let's see what I've got.
That's insane. Every week
And
when I
the
get
same
groceries.
thing happens when I go home. I'm like, what do I make for dinner tonight? What do I got?
See, that's why I like to prep something at the beginning of the week, so I don't have to worry about it.
I can't
And then I'll
do the
eat.
same thing.
I had turkey chili every night for dinner this week,
I can't do that.
and I was fine. I was so fine with it. It was so yummy, and I loved it.
Yeah. No routines. No repetition. It just doesn't happen for me.
No,
So,
I'm not one of those girls.
no.
I'm not that girl. Oh, I was doing it to the tone.
Oh, that's like a song in Wicked. I think you were asleep for that one.
Okay, well, anyways. Damn, bitch can't fucking close her eyes in a movie for 1 second without just being fucking berated for it on a fucking podcast. Damn.
Okay.
Shit. Fuck. Damn it.
So, as we talked about in the last episode, nothing about social media is truly relaxing or separate from laboring. Like, we're laboring when we're like logging on. Every second you spend on social media is creating profit for someone somewhere. And so is it self-care if you're recording yourself like doing and they quote this article in the New Yorker by Jordan Kistner: self-care in America has always required a certain amount of performance. A person has to be able not only to care for themselves, but to prove to society that they are doing it. And so I feel like that's kind of like the space where self-care existed in 2016, and since then there has been some kind of like
Forward motion.
reclamation of it, or like some sort of new usage of it, I've noticed. So recently I've seen a few infographics that have been using self-care as a way to advocate for rest, and this quote from Audre Lorde is reposted over and over and over and over again, good. So, the quote is, "Caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare." What's your reaction to this quote? Like your initial reaction?
It's giving CEO girl boss.
CEO.
But I'm living for it. Yeah.
Well, it's like, I think it is super radical. It's like, yeah, caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It's self-preservation.
Mhm.
It's political warfare.
But
It's
I want to do more than just like preserve myself. You
Right.
know? That's
Right.
my goal.
mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's kind of my initial reaction. It's like, what's one step beyond self-care? Self-care is preservation.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I feel like just this quote alone is a way to justify a lot of different kinds of self-care, and like it's not really defining what that means, you know. And I actually saw this one. The post that I saw is from Pat, Radical Therapist, who I've been following for a while. And she posted this quote alongside this text earlier this week. So this is kind of like how I've been seeing it interpreted. If you're Black, disabled, queer, poor, an immigrant, or navigating the intersections of oppression, caring for yourself is an act of rebellion. Rest is resistance. Eating when the world starves you is defiance. Laughing when they want you to cry is revolutionary. Every single act of care is a refusal to be erased. Audre Lorde said it best, quote, caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. Think about that, political warfare. Let that seep into your breath, bones, and soul. In a system built to exploit and exhaust you, every moment of care is a fight. Fight to exist, a fight to hold on to your humanity. Oh, I love her so much. And she did, like, I think that description, the way that she's like saying that, is like very indicative of the way that self-care is being used right now. And at face value, I think this quote really resonates with a lot of folks who are grappling with how to deal with dread and living in late-stage capitalism. Many people feel seen by this quote, and I get that. And as we discussed in our previous episode, like, our time is not our own. It's something you have to actively reclaim, and for many, I think this quote is like an empowering reminder to take a step away from your life and take time to care for yourself, because the system doesn't want you to do that, right? Yeah. But if you know Audre Lorde, you know that this quote definitely means a lot more than a spa day, certainly, and possibly a lot more than this interpretation. And I wanted to read this quote for myself and like absorb its full meaning. And what I found is that a lot of those who are using this quote are erasing the context that she wrote it in. It was written in a burst of light and other essays between January of 1984 and August of 1987. And if you don't know Audre Lorde, she's a queer Black feminist, poet, and one of the most prominent writers in feminist literature throughout the 20th century. I feel like, when did you learn about Audre Lorde? Just like in gender studies class?
I was literally going to say women's and gender studies, yep.
I never got to take that class, but damn, everybody always talked about it.
It was so fun. Because people would say some fuck shit, and then the divas would look at each other across the room and just be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I'm like jealous I've never been in a women's and gender studies class.
It was so
before.
fun. Being a queer in there is so fun.
Yeah.
Because then the other straight men in there were so funny.
Oh
I'm
my
just like,
God.
oh,
Being a straight man in a women's and gender studies class, that might have the power to turn them into like a crazy person.
Either that, they just dropped the class. I don't
They
know.
just can't take it.
And then it just ends up being a bunch of divas and queers.
Just the echo chamber.
No, I actually would love a little discourse. I want to argue a little bit. I like to debate.
Yeah.
Diva debates.
Yeah, diva debating.
Diva discourse.
Diva discourse. The diva discourse.
The diva discourse.
Alternative name for this podcast.
Wait, that's so kind.
It's pretty good. Rebrand right now.
Yeah, we're renaming ourselves Diva Discourse.
I like that. Okay, so Audre Lorde, we love. She wrote A Burst of Light in the time following her diagnosis of cancer, which changed so many aspects of her life Cancer gave Lord a new perspective of what it means to be disabled and inspired her to write about the intersectionality of disability and how it functions alongside her other identities. I think a lot of people quote Audre Lorde for talking about intersectionality and really being one of the people that made that idea really accessible and like something that we can understand. But like the disability discourse, I feel like is so often left out of that, of like intersectional conversations. Within this context, allow me to read the full quote from A Burst of Light. Sometimes I feel like I'm living on a different star from the one I am used to calling home. It has not been a steady progression. I had to examine in my dreams, as well as my immune function tests, the devastating effects of overextension. Overextending myself is not stretching myself. I had to accept how difficult it is to monitor the difference. Necessary for me is cutting down sugar. Crucial, physically, psychically. Caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation, and that is an act of warfare. So when you have all of that, you realize that she's talking about taking care of herself, not in a way that's like, oh, I'm so tired from my job, like I need to go home and rest. It's literally like, oh, I have to learn how to take care of my body and like my physical form in a way that I never have before, because I am living in it in a way that I never have before. I'm experiencing this whole new way of like the progression of time. She's literally talking about like living on a different star, like experiencing time and experiencing her body so wildly differently that it's only she can be there to advocate for herself. Like only she can understand what is going on so that she can care for herself. Like self-care is advocating for yourself, because it's a totally different experience, and like no one in this world and her situation was advocating for her and on the level that she needed to survive.
Well, yeah, and I think it's a common, like you said a minute ago, common experience with people with disabilities is just they're not being advocated for. And granted, we would rather have platforms for them to advocate for themselves rather than people advocating for them. But
Exactly.
regardless, you don't see much of it because people aren't raising up disabled voices. It's sad because a lot of poor people are disabled. Most poor people that I know are disabled to some degree.
Yeah.
I think
Well, exclusion takes a toll on your body. You know?
And so, I don't know. And so in that context, when she's talking about self-care, it's more of like, it's, yeah, like you said, not a spa day. It's like the world around me is like, use me as some type of like lesser one for reasons so far out of my control. And so, like, taking care of myself is an act of like, not maybe revolution, but I don't know, just an act of like reclaiming one's space in the world. I don't know. I think that's really dope.
Yeah. And the way that she came to this realization after working for so long to understand intersectionality of all of her other identities and to bring this into it too is like just so powerful. So I feel like it's such a disservice to keep using this quote and to keep transforming it into something that she did not write it to be. But I think that she would appreciate the power of it and appreciate how it's, like bringing people into this knowingness of like, we need joy, we need time, we need ourselves, we need to take care of ourselves. That's great. Yes, but like she is talking about disability rights here. Like she is talking about,
it lacks context, it lacks nuance.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, in this context, self-preservation is an act of political warfare, not because she is expected to clock into her job and is instead deciding to play hooky. It's an act of political warfare because as a person with a disability, she's daring to take care of herself in an economic system that sees her as a burden for so many different reasons. Kim and Schock say that this quote represents an entirely different temporality experienced by disabled people. Quote, it feels like a different world outside of a steady progression. And that's kind of what she was talking about. Like, I live on a different planet right now. Yes. And so in this way, they talk about how disabled people experience time differently. They they describe crip time and crip temporality as the ways that the clock for creating and changing your condition is accelerated. Your time on earth is accelerated because you suddenly have maybe more of an expectation of how much time you have left. Crip is kind of like
Yes.
queer,
Oh.
or it's a reclaimed term. In this sense, the ability to take care of yourself is inherently political because your existence does not benefit the economy or the larger system at play. And so we have this very personal context of a burst of light, but then there's also a political context of a burst of light that this article talks about. They say, quote, Lord's theorization of self-care was also developed in the particular social, historical, and political context of the 1980s in Ronald Reagan's administration, which, not unlike our current political regime, was slowly dismantling the welfare state and its provisions of state care for low-income communities. So, simultaneously, as she was learning to care for herself with cancer, Lord witnessed the collapse of many social programs alongside those personal experiences with a profiteering healthcare system. This book is a critique of the healthcare system. Like, self-care was created as a critique of the healthcare system.
I also think that in a large way, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, self-care is created as a way to like externalize the pitfalls of our healthcare system.
Yeah. Like as a way to
evade accountability.
Yeah.
Evade in a lot of ways it almost strikes me as a way to keep us as, not me sounding like a liberal cuck right now, but like in a lot of ways it makes me feel like it's a distraction to keep us running the hamster wheel of day-to-day life and to keep us from like realizing our anger with the empire and like really like doing something about it, really like uniting in a tangible way that like actually causes real change. I think it's a tool in some ways, self-care, to keep us focused on other things.
Like if you're not performing self-care, then so that's so embarrassing. Like you don't look a certain way, and how does that look? You don't look healthy. You don't, and if you don't look healthy, that means that you're not doing self-care. So that's your responsibility. You're irresponsible.
And then you're or like lazy, or like when a lot of the times it's like a systematic sort of like undermining of one's ability to do so that leads to them not being able to do so.
Exactly.
Anyways, I could just rant on and on about that. Working in social work, I see it every fucking day. How like my parents are undermined by the system and how they're made to be accountable for that somehow. So much of it is out of their control.
Exactly.
So it's very frustrating.
Yeah, and in a time right now when like just health insurance, healthcare is like very much a hot topic, at the exact same time that self-care is very much a hot topic, I just like am dying to see a little bit more of this connection of like it reminds me a lot, honestly, of the greenwashing of carbon footprint and like yes, it's definitely like a cousin to that for sure.
Just like focus
climate
on
activists came along and they were like, okay, well, we're gonna come up with the idea of like a footprint, like what is your impact on the planet? And then the oil industry was like, oh well, actually let's come up with the carbon footprint and we're gonna tell you guys to start tracking these things because it's all your fault. Then you guys need to be tracking your impact, not us. So then we also have this where like self-care was created as this way to like really advocate for yourself, advocate for people, and then it's corrupted and taken as a thing that continues to excuse the system that it was.
Well, I mean, that's what colonialism does. It corrupts and it extracts in it, but they're all just characteristics of the same system, of the same project. It's so I get so existential if I think about it too hard. It actually makes me anxious. But no.
So self-care was originally developed as a refusal to be complicit in a corrupt healthcare system that is not centered on the self. Self-care, this is a quote, self-care is not a rejection of medicine, but rather an active and informed participation with medicine that recognizes the knowledge and insights of both patient and practitioner. So in this way, Lord understood self-care to be physical and mental, thoughtful, purposeful, necessary, political, and resistant to normative capitalist approaches to time, which stand in opposition to wellness for marginalized people. It's basically all saying, like, this isn't me being like, oh, I don't believe in medicine, or I don't believe in, like, the progress, or, you know, all of that stuff. It's more just like, when I go to the doctor, they don't believe me, and they don't listen to me, and I have to fight so fucking hard for them to take care of me in the way that I take care of myself.
Whenever I should be able to partner with them, have them listen to what's going on with me and my body, take that at face value, and then use their knowledge and their experience to help me navigate that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, 100%.
She's talking about medical consent. She's talking about, like, I have to self-care in that way. Like, I have to take care of myself.
Yeah. Especially
because
navigating.
you're not taking care of me.
Well, especially as, like, a Black queer person navigating the healthcare system and disabled too, like, shit. Like, that is just, oh my God. Like, it's,
Yeah. And that's what self-care is. Like, that's what she's fucking talking about.
So go to the doctor, bitch.
Yeah.
If you're listening and you have been putting off a doctor's appointment, go.
Yeah.
Because how are you going to do anything if your body's not, like, kicking? You know, Diva?
Yeah, exactly.
And if that doctor doesn't listen to you, grab them by the leg and shake them.
Yeah.
And tell them the Audre Lorde said that we need to partner together.
Yeah.
And maybe then they'll listen.
Audre Lorde said we should collab, so I'm here.
We need to be two queens to queen out.
Yeah.
Damn.
Hey, but, like, not everyone has fucking health insurance.
Shout out to stay. I am going to the dentist tomorrow for my 6-month checkup.
Yeah.
So tap in, girls.
I'm thinking about your heart.
I try not to think about my heart. It's
I've been
terrifying.
thinking about your heart.
It's terrifying. For the girlies who don't know, which probably most of you, I have, like,
We think pots.
we think POTS, but nobody can really tell me what it is. And so, but yeah, I've got some weird heart stuff going on.
Yeah.
And it has been for a few years, but even as I'm talking about it, I can feel like my chest tightening.
I know. Yeah.
But, like, I'll get weird days where just, I get really intense chest pains all day long.
Right.
I'll get, like, heart attack, like, esque symptoms every 6 to 8 months. And have, like, many, like, heart attacks / seizures or something.
Right.
But anyways, yeah, so go to the doctor, y'all, if you can. Like, if it's in the means, go, because health is scary. Like,
Right.
we really can't care for ourselves or anybody else if we're not physically able to.
Yeah. I think, like, the definition of disabled is changing a lot too. Like, I think just that description, like, is certainly, like, I don't know if that's, like, a label that you would identify with, but I feel like that would definitely, like, fall into what Audre Lorde is talking about. Like,
I mean, yeah, it definitely impacts how I experience the world.
Yeah.
It impacts, like, I would definitely say it impacts temporality for me. Every day is characterized by, like, a series of very, like, physical feelings that are almost like clockwork. And I have to, like,
it takes you out of your day. You know,
I have to go
experience
home
time
and
differently.
nap, or I have to, like, go sit down and, like, breathe, or I have to, like, you know, I have to eat, like, 4 small meals a day. Like, I have to do things and constantly think about how to navigate the world and also prepare to navigate the world so that I don't have to worry about dealing with those symptoms and side effects while I'm out in the world. So yeah,
Because the world is not going to accept you.
No, because they're all gonna look at me like I'm a freak if I, like, am kneeling on the ground, like, trying to take deep breaths because I'm, like, having symptoms, you know, like. And so, I mean, yeah, I guess I never really thought about it like that. I've never really given it much critical thought because it is just kind of how I navigate the world. It's most of, like my friends back, even when I worked at the shelter, even at DHS, like, so many of us have disabilities of some sort, most invisible. And so, like, it's And like that is a whole other conversation of like invisible versus visible, and why is there even dichotomy in the first place, and like taking people's word at face value if they
Yeah.
tell you that they have a
It's like
disability.
normative.
Yeah, like why
visible is normative.
yes, and but whenever
Passing,
exactly
all of those things.
exactly it all feels like similar to one another, and so it's just weird to me. It's kind of like if somebody that doesn't quote unquote outwardly have a disability like says, hey, I'm disabled, like listen to them. Just like if somebody who isn't outwardly presenting as the opposite gender says, hey, I'm trans, listen to them.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lived experience that you still don't understand regardless of what context it's in.
Right.
Anyways, I'm gonna hop off my soapbox.
No, you're so right. You're so right. Yeah, so like the origins of self-care as disability activism have been co-opted in the newest usage of the word. And for me, I feel like as someone who the world is designed to profit off of, like we have to remember that our bodies are fragile. Like I don't know that I would identify as disabled currently. I mean, I can't fucking see a lot of things. Like I really can't. Even like
This
with my
bitch can
glasses,
barely
like, I
ever
can't
see.
fucking see.
It's actually an issue. Like it's like genuinely.
And it only gets worse every year. So
Yeah.
who knows? Like I think I'm making eye contact with y'all right now, but I don't really know. But anyways,
Wait,
like
where were you looking?
at the camera, I think.
Yeah, you were.
Okay.
That's so funny.
But like it is inevitable that I will one day be fighting to keep myself alive in a way that I never have before. It's inevitable for all of us. And folks with disabilities are tasked with learning how to advocate for themselves in the face of daily existential fear. This really reminds me a lot of our last episode and like the ways that like queer folks have all of this experience of like encountering exclusion and like in opposition to that, how do we create community and create inclusion? And I think the same can be said for most intersectional identities for sure, but like this experience of like preparing for the future, experiencing time differently because you're constantly preparing for your end is like something that disabled folks encounter daily, and therefore they are so ahead of any conversation surrounding like death care, mortality. Like
I was just thinking that a minute ago.
Exactly.
Of just like every day when I have like on the days when I have the worst symptoms, I'm just like, it reminds me of how like fragile my body is and how like truly mortal I am in like the least like funny way. Like genuinely, I'm just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like I could pass it in a moment. You know, maybe not from this, but like it just reminds you of your general fragility.
Right. And in that moment, you are living
It's
in
so
a different
scary.
time.
It's so scary.
You know?
It's not time doesn't exist in those moments. It's so fast and so slow all at once. I guess it depends on the person, but you're feeling so much and so little all at once that it's just hard to keep track of time. Because you have to almost like get lost in a sensation that isn't really pleasurable.
Right.
For the most part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like you're a multi-temporal being, but not by choice. Like you're thrust into.
You know those scenes in like movies where people are like warping through different times and their faces like thrashing and they're like little you know, like they're like shaking and shit. Like little like visions of them are like flashing.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Like
that like daily experience of just like, ooh, I'm getting warped around and I have to like learn to advocate for myself in this moment. Lord talks about self-care as a way to sustain this daily experience. Quote, for her, survival is not merely about being not dead, but having more time at all costs, but rather about living for the time one had and learning from one's experiences, identities, and empowerment. In recognizing the powerful origins of self-care within disability activism, it has a totally new meaning for me. Like, I think while urgency is at the heart of all political movements, this urgency is difficult to sustain over a lifetime. And in climate change activism, I think that we often forget that sustainability includes the mental and physical well-being of everybody. Like, we cannot sustain any movement, any work that we're doing, if we're suffering all the time. And I think that's what a lot of people are taking from this quote. And I just hope that we can recognize that like disability care is at the very center of this and should be at the origin of anything, any kind of care conversation we have going forward. We have so many folks to listen to and so many people who have been writing about this for generations and have been saying this for so long, and like their whole story is not being told when we pick apart these quotes and only use it for the story we're trying to tell. And I'm currently reading Pleasure Activism by Adrienne Maree Brown, who is like an essential source for this podcast every day. Like, she's just fucking amazing, and she talks about the experience of learning to lead through pleasure in pretty much every sense of the word. Like, every single chapter is about a different way to interpret pleasure. And I've just been thinking about that a lot. Like I do feel like I lead through pleasure, and like that's my motivation for a lot of things. Is like, is this going to bring me pleasure? If not, how can I try to change it to bring me pleasure? And that's like, everybody deserves to feel pleasure, like every single person, whether that be just like the way that you experience life, or like relief that you get from pain or whatever. Good
sex,
fucking food, good sex,
like whatever that is for you, like pleasure.
Exactly.
I think, I don't like that when we have connotations of just sex when it comes to pleasure. I like the idea of broadening our perspectives on pleasure.
I know. She actually says at the beginning of the book that she encourages everybody to have an orgasm after every chapter.
That's so kind.
I know. And I was like, okay,
I'll
do
come
that.
after every... That's so kind.
And honestly, it's been great.
Period. Period. I know that's fucking right.
On that note, I'm done.
So, I'm gonna kind of pick up where Cricket left off. We touched a little bit on like capitalism and self-care and sort of how that's been co-opted, but I want to dive more into that. Explore like maybe like the characteristics of corporate self-care, maybe like how that impacts the environment, and also sort of like how do we reorient concepts of self-care from being very individualistic to communal. And can like we really consider self-care if it's individual? I kind of like really want to fucking scream every time somebody's like, make time for self-care, like make time for yourself. It's like this endless reverberation between like, I have so much to do, and like I also desperately need a second to like find relief, find pleasure somewhere, and what makes it so infuriating is I feel like most of the time the people telling me to do self-care are the same people who are like so fine running me into the ground with like a 60-hour work week. Like these are the people that I'm constantly hearing self-care from. Like you, for example, you've never asked me like, what are you doing for self-care? You're always asking me like, how is your heart? How is your mind? Have you eaten today? Have you taken your meds? All of like genuinely, like I'm not even trying to be like funny or facetious. Like these are questions that center self-care, and like true nourishment of self. Whereas
like self well-being.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
I'm concerned about your well-being.
Exactly. And so I never hear like this discussed really anywhere else but the workplace. So I kind of just self-care is just corporate jargon to me at this point.
HR.
Exactly. It's very like corporate Erin. Like it's very.
Love her.
Yeah, she's a queen. So what are some of the characteristics of corporate self-care? If you had to guess, what were a couple?
Very familiar with her, unfortunately.
Know her well.
Well, it's like it's just so watered down. It's so watered down. It's nothing like the only reason to do self-care is so that you are mentally prepared to do your job.
Bow.
And if you are
Shablam.
Thank you.
Shablam. Shablam. No, you
because
got it.
if you're not taking care of yourself for some reason, like
then
you're coming in stinky, you're coming in wearing the wrong outfit, you're coming in And
or
you
like
better-
pull you into the office or
Yeah.
something, you know, because there's this social contract of like you need to look or present XYZ regardless of what you're going through in your personal
Right.
life because it's professional to appear as such. I walk into work and if I'm having a shitty day, I don't give a goddamn fuck.
Yeah.
I will, if somebody asks, like, I'm actually having a terrible day. Thank you for asking, though.
Yeah.
And the reactions I get are so funny.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, I'm sorry. Diva, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for your sympathy.
Like,
you
I'm still here. I'm going to do my job, but listen.
You asked how my day was.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you anymore. Like, I'm tired of that bullshit.
Right.
But anyways, so according to an article by Huffington Post entitled, "Want More Productive Employees? Encourage Self-Care."
Oh, God.
These are some methods that employers can encourage their workers to engage in.
Okay.
One of them being mindfulness, as in like meditation and yoga, which like my initial thoughts on that are of like kind of like frustration, because I think that like meditation and yoga are inherently good things to do. I think that they're like, sure, great, do that.
Well, I think both of those things, meditation and yoga, are like very appropriative also.
Yeah.
Because like,
Well, and that's where you see it is in like white corporate culture, where
Yeah.
it's like we're gonna take like 5 minutes of like meditation time, and then
Yeah.
we jump back into it.
oh my God.
Or like
over Zoom. Like, everyone's-
exactly, yeah. So like and that's kind of what I was like talking about in here. Like we've whittled this meditation and yoga, which are like cultural practices of mindfulness and presence, and of true of true pleasure in one's just like being. Like, and we've whittled it down to a means of just continuing to labor for the capitalist system, like
Yeah.
rather than as a way to more deeply engage with ourselves and with community,
Yeah.
which is what those things were based in.
And
you know,
They're also based in like an inherent connection to nature
Yeah.
as well. Like those are both things that you do with nature. You're replicating nature. You're like with yoga specifically, like the way you're moving your body is to like
mimicking the sunrise,
certain,
the
I don't
sunset.
know, like
yeah.
all of these things. And then meditation in particular is about like, for me at least, is like about becoming a part of the system around you and just like taking
Melting.
yourself so far out of your brain that you are just like a shell, but it feels good. And you're just like,
oh my god,
I love a little meditation. I've
hadn't-
gotten
oh.
really good at it. Like I can shut off all of my thoughts
That's crazy.
and just like be, and it feels so fucking good.
That's crazy.
But I don't do it by listening to like some bitch in my ear. He's like, okay,
Some bitch in my ear is
we're
crazy.
gonna go and like
Yeah.
walk on a cloud and walk through the door and now you're thinking about your dog. Like that is not it. Like I'm listening
Yeah.
to bells. Like I'm listening to water running.
I'm listening to the sound bowls.
Yeah.
Bitch, I love those.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
those.
But yeah, it's like not about
Yeah.
not about any of those things.
No,
And
no,
so
no.
even when like my therapist tells me to like go meditate or do something like this, I'm like, this is a practice I have built for years. Like it's not just like something I can do so I can
Yeah.
tap back in.
Yeah, it's not like just taking a medication. Like it doesn't work
So
like that.
true. Like
you
people
know?
think that's like a pill
Yeah.
that you can take.
And it's not. It's a practice. It's a skill in a lot of ways. Meditation and yoga, because learn on moving your body like that and being able to clear your mind like that. Those aren't just things that are innate. And so, yeah, I think it just is like whittles that shit down. Another thing they mentioned is exercise, which we've all heard that. I mean, I've gone to the hospital for having like an episode, and when I had my episode was in the fucking gym.
Yeah.
And they had the audacity to tell me in my hospital bed that I needed to work out more. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? This is what I'm saying. It's like this like exercise as the antidote for everything, when that's not the fucking case.
Yeah.
It pisses me off. It pisses me. Quit telling people with disabilities or even just anybody to exercise. I understand that it's important. I do. I understand that in some cases you really should exercise if you have some sort of illness, XYZ. I understand. However, the next bitch that tells me to like go for a run is getting fucking jacked. Like, I'm so tired.
I know, right?
I'm so tired. Like, no, give me a doctor that listens to me. I'd like that.
Because of how much people have told me that I need to exercise, actually started to exercise and like enjoy it, it took me so fucking long to get there
Oh my
because
God.
they were telling me how to do it in a bunch of different ways that did not serve me.
No.
And so it took me forever
Yes.
to find a way that like actually served me and like made me feel better, because
Yes.
otherwise I would leave every single time just feeling like I had suffered for an hour. And like
Exactly.
that's not what you want.
And that's why you go to Eddyville and you put your headphones in and you play Bodies by Charlie XCX, and then you just fight. Or is it Bodies? No, it's what's the song called? It's from Bodies though.
The album Body?
Mm-mm.
Wait, what?
The movie Bodies.
Oh.
It's a song from Bourgeoisie.
Oh.
I'm a hot girl, pop girl, bitch girl.
Oh.
I'm a bitch girl, boss girl. Catch me if you can, girl.
Exactly.
You a swerve girl. Who the fuck are you, girl? You just wanna be me. Pull up to the match and pull up to the party. All my friends are so cute.
Your
We're gonna
Charlie
get it
accent
started.
is so funny.
It's not good, but I love
It is
it.
good.
Pull up to the match.
No,
and you
that's
know
exactly
what.
it. Like, I didn't enjoy the gym until I realized that it's just an excuse for me to make a really fun playlist.
And to feel kind.
Yeah.
To feel point.
Yeah,
Like just
exactly.
like strutting through the gym, feeling like in your oats, feeling connected with your body.
Right.
Also feeling that like mind muscle connection is so crazy. Like if you really orient it in a way of like, I'm exercising because I like to feel my body like really just in tune with it, it makes it so much easier for me to go to the gym.
Yeah.
But if I operate from a place of I navigate the world outwardly as like a queer man, and because of that I feel a lot of social pressure to be physically appear some sort of way. So if I approach the gym in that context, then it ruins the gym for me and I won't go. But if I approach it in a way that I'm like, God, I love this feeling of like feeling good in my body, feeling my muscles move and like contract and feeling that like control, like that is a whole nother way to like orient approaching exercise for me. Another thing that they mention is time in nature, which like, yes, 100%. Again, also something that I think is like whittled down because we are inherently wired to be in communion with nature. And so now it's something that, you know, take a 10-minute walk, that way you can come back and you can be more productive when you sit down at your desk. Like that's what it is. Like like you said, it's just like, how can you preserve yourself to keep creating capital, to keep creating profit? And it's not about the individual, it's not about the community anymore.
No, it's not.
And okay, so a couple of other things and then I'll move on. Eating healthy, we could get into a whole thing about that. Quitting smoking, shut the fuck up. Don't even get me started.
God. They just don't want people to go outside of the building and smoke.
No, exactly. I'm like, also like, hey, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like, let a person smoke a cigarette.
Yeah.
Let a person smoke a cigarette, goddamn.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, we have bigger fish to fry at this point. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry. And then the last one they list, which I thought was really interesting, was social support. And it had the smallest, like, paragraph of all of the other ones. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck? And so, kind of like we talked about earlier, I've seen things like spa night or retail therapy. I think like Parks and Rec, like Treat Yourself, like that episode.
That's what people think self-care is.
Exactly, and like that's what I used to think self-care was, like a face mask and a bath, you know, and like Sex in the City or some shit, which I've never really watched Sex in the City, so like I don't really know why I said that, but like, but like that's the like vibe I imagine.
Yeah,
you know?
like, do they do that in Sex in the City?
I'm sure they
Probably
do. I don't
do.
know.
Yeah, that seems like a cold open.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like whether this is a face mask and a bath or just like an impulse buy, like literally just to feel something, which I'm definitely guilty of. We are engaging with capitalism as an antidote to our fatigue because of capitalism.
Yeah.
Which is just like a crazy positive feedback loop. Why are we like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Well,
it's like
HR serves the company, so fuck
serves
HR.
the company.
They're not there to take care of you.
HR was invented after they decided to bust up a bunch of unions. They were like, oh, y'all don't need to unionize because now we have HR.
Oh.
And so then...
I've never had a good HR experience.
Yeah.
Ever. Anyways. And so, yeah, we've been roped into this, like, hamster wheel of, like, getting run ragged and fed narratives of self-care while, like, just taking care of things generally gets harder because of inflation, because of climate change, because of politics. Like, it's not, they don't take into account all of these other intersecting things that we're dealing with all at once. It's not as simple as like just caring for myself.
Yeah.
And so not only is this glazing over like the intense reality of, I think, the fatigue that we're all facing, it also allows for corporations to externalize the work and the care needed to counter that sort of like fatigue with capitalism. So Kim and Schalt do a wonderful job of summarizing this in Reclaiming the Radical Politics of Self-Care. And they say, among the activities grouped under employee self-care include mindfulness practices, exercise, and spending time in nature. Many scholars have observed how suggestions such as these deflect the possibility of corporate accountability to the workforce.
Yes, exactly. Like they're giving these suggestions instead of giving you health insurance.
I got bullet points. So the same entity that uses our bodies to generate capital also puts the onus on us to make sure that we keep those bodies moving. Yet they refuse to provide like tangible things that would actually benefit our health and like allow us to care for ourselves and like us one another. Whether this healthcare, livable wages, realistic work hours, maternity, paternity, and medical leave, accessible and inclusive workspaces, accountable leadership with the ability and desire to change. All of these different things like leading into like really impacting how we experience the workplace and how we experience the outside world, and like, but none of those things actually changing. The onus being put back on us to like go do a face mask and like take a bath.
Right.
And so that's
not
just,
on company time.
No, but not on company time. And you know what? I'm gonna fucking play Heyday on company time because fuck y'all.
I do be sitting on the
I don't
toilet
give a
playing
shit.
Heyday.
I don't give a fuck. I will go home. Let me not, because they gonna catch me for fucking. Never mind. Let me keep my mouth shut. But listen, I'm sad, yo. I'm fucking sad. Just one thing about me is I will take company time.
Yeah.
I don't give a damn.
I think it's fucked up that it's even on the company to like dictate if we are able to go to the doctor or not. Like, that is so insane.
And tying healthcare to labor is crazy.
It's crazy.
It's basically saying if you can't contribute to the economy, you don't deserve to live.
Exactly.
That's and that's what Audre Lorde's talking about. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, if you cannot generate capital, fuck you.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And that's because health insurance companies are like, literally, they've backed like every single seat in our like House of Representatives, like every single senator. Like
they have a hand in every single pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter. Like,
exactly.
it doesn't.
Like, they own us here in America.
They do. And like something that's like really frustrating for me is I have great health care through the state, and that's such a like, I don't pay a dime for my health care, which is fucking insane.
Bitch,
and that's
you better take advantage of that.
That's what I'm saying. This is the first time in my life that I've had that. And so it's been like, when I think about leaving this job, I have to consider that. And for somebody who, I guess now that I am thinking about it, is disabled to some degree, you know, like that is a consideration that I have to keep in mind. I am medicated. I have several medications that I've got to make sure that I can keep those, you know. I go to therapy. I have to make sure that I can continue doing that.
Yeah.
And I have to be able to factor all of that into a budget if I don't have the healthcare to do so.
Exactly.
And so it's just so frustrating to feel like tethered to this job because it's the only thing that's keeping me insured.
Yes.
It is so fucking frustrating.
Yeah. Imagine if we just like didn't have to worry about our jobs being how we are
valued by the system. Care, like, it's the only way we deserve care.
Yeah.
But
then even when you do have the care,
it's still shit.
they get to pick and choose.
Yeah. Oh my god, how much anesthesia you get, what gets covered. Like, did you know that they will cover anesthesia up to a certain point and at like a time stamp? They will say, if you've got like an hour procedure, we'll give you 30 minutes of anesthesia, and the rest of the anesthesia, the rest of the minutes, you have to pay for that out of pocket. That shit is fucking insane.
That is insane.
So if you have some like crazy intense surgery, they're like, hey, you can do it, but you gotta, like, what are you supposed to do other than just swallow it and fucking pay for it?
Yeah.
Because I have to have this surgery.
Right.
Like, oh my god.
But also, if they like let you be in pain, you're gonna be like writhing in pain, and you're gonna ruin your surgery.
Exactly.
So there's no other choice but to pay for it.
This episode is actually making, I can't say that.
I mean, it needs to be fucking out. Like,
It
I
does.
think we talk about
Well-
it. And also, like, okay, I have health insurance. When I got this health insurance, I had to switch all of my medications because they
Didn't cover it.
didn't cover
Yep.
any of it, and they were like,
Yep.
I don't actually think that you have this.
Which is
I
y'all
had my
girlies
doctor
know.
call. I had my employer call. Like, they were all calling, and they were like, yes, actually, this person needs this, like, really badly to function. And they were like, we don't believe you should switch.
And like that's insane because if you know how hard it is to change medications, you know how hard it is. Like,
Exactly.
It's fucking awful. It takes weeks upon weeks, and that's if it's successful the first go.
Yeah.
Or if it's not, then you got another 3 weeks at least.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, they really just play with us. Like, I'm fucking tired. Like,
tired of
I'm
it.
genuinely
I'm tired
fucking
of an
tired.
AI deciding
Yes.
whether or not. Like, that's
Yes.
probably what happened. Honestly, that fucking AI, it
It's
was
a
probably
thing.
in there.
It's a
like,
real thing. They have AI that like goes through health insurance applications. So like when your doctor goes to your health insurance company and says we need this operation, it will literally for some companies run through an AI machine that will say this and this, and then people have gone back through, like individuals have gone back through those AI decisions and been like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, why are we making this decision?
Right.
So like,
And if I'm paying for it all the time, why isn't it just like, yes?
yeah. So, anyways, let's pivot because if I could talk about this fucking forever, and this is just gonna have to be a hard pivot because I like could genuinely
I know,
rant about the
same.
medical.
I understand.
So yeah, hard pivot from that onto like, I was curious about what the like environmental impacts of like corporate capitalist self-care would be. And I think because so many forms of self-care are based in consumption or some form of like economic engagement, it's like this idea that we can like consume our way to like freedom or liberation or relief when that's not the case. So in our current economic system, everything has an environmental cost, and we've talked about this writ large. I mean, like, or at length, and y'all, our listeners, y'all are smart, like y'all know this, you know what I mean? So whether this comes from where the raw materials are sourced, the emissions used in producing and transporting final product, the trash they contribute to landfills, all of these consumerist narratives of self-care are just ultimately undermining the true meaning of self-care. And I'll discuss what I mean more about that true meaning in a second. And so as a case study for the concept that I just discussed, I kind of wanted to talk about the ideas of self-care that are based in the beauty industry. And because I think there's something a bit problematic about focusing on the consumer side of the beauty industry, because I think in a lot of ways it's like very heavily gendered in ways that are out of our control.
Yeah.
And like, I hesitate to talk about waste and that stuff when like a lot of that is out of consumers' control, and a lot of it is gendered. And so I'm not focusing on the consumer side more so than I am on the production side, the industry side, and what that sort of how the industry side has basically, rather than focusing on the consumer impact of the beauty industry, I think it's more constructive to analyze the individual and social impacts that the beauty industry has on us. Specifically, when it comes to the beauty industry, a lot of what it's geared towards is the evasion of aging and the preservation of an idea of eternal youth. Whether it's like a serum or a wellness trend or like a supplement, we're constantly encouraged to escape the idea of aging. And in the process, I wonder, like, what does this do to our relationship with life and death? And also with our ability to conceptualize ourselves as part of a larger cycle of life and death.
Yeah.
Meaning people came before us and people will come after us in that sense. So if we spend all of our time evading aging, I think that kind of impacts our ability to conceptualize ourselves, like I said, as part of a deep scale of time in which we came from thousands and millions of people before us and millions of people who hopefully come after us. We get wrapped up in concepts of self-care that feed the fire of individualism even more, and something of which I think can be empowering to some degree. Like, I think there's a space for like self-care and like the beauty industry that is actually super empowering and exciting. I don't want to make it sound like I'm shitting on the beauty industry, because some people do that.
Yeah.
There's like good, cool things happening there. But like overall, I think I'm talking more about the social and, I guess basically the social impacts of the beauty industry on us. And
Yeah. Well, like beauty and changing your appearance is something that I don't think we'll ever get away from, because beauty means so many different things.
And it's always been
it
around.
means, like putting colors on your face, or like trying to mimic an animal, or like so many different ways that you can like practice, perform beauty.
They've been doing it forever.
I know. It's
These
like,
have been painted.
it's drag.
Yeah. We've been doing drag since literally the dawn of time, though.
Yeah, but it's that specific, like that anti-aging part of it
Mm-hmm.
that is like new and weird, and also like aging in a society where we hate like having to take care of older people. Aging is a disability. Getting older is a disability.
Bitch, speak the fuck on it.
Yeah.
Like, we as a society treat old people like fucking chopped liver.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's just like, in
America.
Yeah, in America specifically. Ageism is such like a normal part of, I think, conversation with so many people, and I just hear it and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. But ageism is also ableism.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, and like I think about that so often, and like specifically when I'm like knitting, I think about, in 40 years, what will my hands be like? Like, will I be able to do these same things? Will I be able to create this art? And that's terrifying to me, because it's like, that's something that brings me so much joy. And so, like, that's something that I always try to keep in mind, is like, engage with it and appreciate it and relish in it while I have it, because literally nothing is guaranteed. And I don't know. We will all become disabled at some point.
Exactly.
Like you said, it is just a matter of time. And like, we've seen it, and all of us have, I think, to some degree, whether that's like a grandparent, descending into some sort of dementia or like memory disorder, something like that. Like, we've seen it. So like, it's sad, but it's gonna happen to all of us.
Exactly.
It's like the one shared experience we all have.
It's uniting.
It's like life and death.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty fucking cool. But I think that like that the fire of individualism that the beauty industry kind of forges is pretty isolating for the most part. I think it becomes like a sort of double whammy where we pour a bunch of time, money, and thought into avoiding wrinkles and stretch marks and blemishes, while also forgetting the things that brought us all of those things. The laughter, the crying, all of those like feelings of human emotions and things that you experience in community that have imprinted themselves on your body. Like, we're evading that, and also forgetting that we're part of generations. We're not the only generation that, like, after we die, shit's gonna keep going.
Yeah.
Like,
And
it's gonna be
about us.
they will forget about all of us.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that, because there was a point in time where nobody ever knew me. And there will be another time where nobody ever knew me. And that's kind of fucking nice.
Yeah.
Like, I find so much peace in that. Like, I really, really fucking do. And so we neglect to engage with communities around us and with the nagging thoughts within us, and the more than human world around us that is begging for us to listen closer, when we're just constantly running from essentially like the effects of time, the effects of age. Just we're constantly running from being human, which is just crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the way that we're told we can feel more human, doing it for us.
No, all of these things don't bring us any actual peace or relief or joy at the end of the day. Like, and even if it does, it's fleeting. It's not sustainable. It's not reciprocal. It's transactional at best, and that's not what self-care is.
Right.
And so we direct our attention towards promises of distractions from the signs that we're finite, but we still have like this infinite ability to connect with one another and like truly care for ourselves by caring for the people around us. One of the things that my clients would always, when I worked at the shelter, they would always be worried about me for whatever reason. And what I would always tell them is like the best way to take care of me is to take care of you and to make sure that you're good too. Because like I feel best when you are at your best. So like that to me is like what will make me feel best. In her Substack article, it's time to embrace community care and let go of individualistic self-care. Aisha Khan, PhD, poses the question, what does self-care mean when my well-being is inextricably tied to the health of my community, the land, and every part of our ecosystems? I know, right? So, how do we begin the work of sort of like reorienting self-care as something that's inherently communal, relying on like the presence and the observation of the people around us, and rather than being something that's done in isolation? And Khan approaches this question by responding with a few of her own, which the way that they just like so simply and elegantly like it was so good.
Yeah.
It was so good. It was like, why do the trees sing? Or like, why do the birds sing?
Yeah.
Why do the trees grow? Like, shut the fuck up.
Oh my
bitch.
god.
So good.
I'm not
But
ready.
so the questions that she posed were, did you breathe today? Did you sleep today? Did you eat today? Khan is positing that the ability to do each of these things is foundation, like it's built on the foundations of the contributions of other life forms of some sort. Whether it's the plants that help create the oxygen we breathe, the people that built bed in the home that you sleep in, the earth and the human hands that spend hours upon hours upon hours to help your food grow, like all of these different things. Community was involved at some point. You didn't get this on your own, you know?
Right. You're being supported
at all times.
Yes.
Constantly.
Oh.
And so the point being that like every action is only possible because we're in constant communion with one another. Everything that we think, do, or say, or engage with is because of all of the imagination, connection, and community care that sowed the seeds for what we have now. So you think of like electricity, for example. Like that took hours and days and years of work from so many different people just trying to figure it out. And it's still, to maintain electricity, granted, you know, it's mostly fossil fuels, but hey, but still, to maintain those, there are individuals on the ground that like that's their job. Like there are people whose job is to like help keep our lights on, and without them we wouldn't have that. And I know that that's like a very like sure, yeah, like whatever like thing to say, but I mean it really does just remind you that like our life is dependent on the lives of others, and without it, like it would be severely impacted.
Right.
And I think that's just such a cool fucking way to think about it.
Right. We're just so like decentered from acknowledging that in everything that we do.
Yeah, cool, because it's at our fingertips. We can flip a switch, and so when we flip a switch, we don't see the labor that goes into that. You know, we just see a light come on, and it's so easy to like lose sight of that. You know, I don't know. Anyways, so something that Khan does, which this is how I'll sort of wrap up this episode, is they ask us to conceptualize ourselves as plants, organisms that are in intimate physical and chemical community with one another at all times, and whose survival depends on that sort of community.
That's such a cute plant.
What kind of plant would you be? I'd be an oak tree.
Maybe some kind of like rooted vegetable, like a radish or a carrot, or
Maybe cabbage.
a cabbage.
I can see you being cabbage.
I can do cabbage. Cabbage
Parsnip?
is delicious. Can I be nappy cabbage?
You can be not cabbage.
And maybe some kimchi.
We know that plants in isolation from nutrients, water, and light will not be able to survive long. So we also know that there are vast mycelial networks that transport extra nutrients from one plant's root system to another's. And so when a plant is rooted with others, it has the ability to receive the proper components necessary for it to feed itself and also to give back to the ecology around it. It has plenty of nutrients, to...
It's like helping share.
Yes. Helping share. I just got a picture of Cher in my head. It's Cher, bitch.
Stop.
I can't do it.
Okay, I have a theory because every single time I hear someone do a Cher impression, it's an impression of a Cher impression.
Of
and
Kermit.
No, it's just
Oh.
it never actually sounds like Cher, but it
No.
sounds very much like when people do an impression of Cher.
Yeah.
And so I'm like,
It's like your impression of Cher sounds like an impression of Cher.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's not actually Cher.
Yeah,
I'm like,
100%.
who is that?
That's an impression of an impression. I just got...
I'm sorry.
So, the transport of these nutrients and of these resources requires community and connection via roots and mycelial networks. Things that take time and care and resources to build. So when plants are in a state of malnourishment or constantly uprooted, they're unable to engage in these physical and chemical acts of reciprocity with the plants around it. This is because, as Colin puts it, care is fundamentally relational, regardless of whether it's the self or the community. And so, while yes, treating yourself is nice, and a manicure every once in a while is cool. I love it. You know, I'd be sad. Hands in the water, like, I love giving myself a manicure. Like, these are not the types of self-care that allow for sustained care for yourself and for others around you. It's not a sustainable way of showing up for yourself. We have to realize that, like, we will not receive the care that we need and desire from the same empire that's extracting from us and using our bodies to generate capital. It's like that stupid fucking phrase that the therapists say, where like, you won't find healing at the feet of those who hurt you. Like, but it's actually like...
I've never heard that before.
And my therapist literally said that to me once, and I was like, oh my...
Well,
I literally...
how profound.
Isn't it? I wrote it down. I remember writing in a little sticky note.
What is it?
You won't find healing at the feet of those who hurt you. And it's cunt, right? It's cunt. It's cunt. And it's something that I've recited to myself multiple times, like, throughout the years. So it is a really good, like, mantra to, like, repeat to myself. But yeah, and so, like, that's kind of when I read this, I was like, that's what I'm getting. It's just like, I'm not gonna find... It's like wanting a result, but you do the same fucking shit over and over again and expect a different result. But it's not gonna give you a different result because you're doing the same shit.
Honestly,
What? Honestly, what?
that has been the difference for me between couples therapy and individual therapy.
Whoa.
I need someone else to be there to, like, help me figure out what the fuck is going on in my brain, you know? And, like, I need, like, this other person is fueling me and, like, giving me life and, like, supporting me, and I'm supporting them and giving them life, and, like, we have this reciprocal relationship. And when I'm trying to, like, figure out why I'm, like, reacting a certain way to something, like, there is an entire community of impact around me, and, like, how the fuck am I supposed to figure out what that is if I'm only hyper-analyzing myself?
The ecology of trauma.
Yeah, like, I'm only... When I do therapy alone, it's just me complaining and then a positive affirmation loop.
It's funny.
Really?
Wow. So, like, the only way I think we, like, truly care for ourselves is by looking outward and seeing how beautifully the outside world can be reflected, like, within yourself, and it just providing so much room for reflection. I know that, like, whenever I'm, like, for example, we had a little get together, and I was just sitting on the floor, kind of, like, looking around, and had my eyes closed at one point, and was just kind of, like, listening to people and listening to the jazz that was playing in the background. And this is good. This is that good shit that, like, really fills me up and, like, brings me, like, joy at the end of the day. Like, having, like, 12 people on my patio just, like, chatting and talking about the most, like, making cast iron shovels and, like, eating, like, the astronaut food, like, just, like, stupid shit. Like, I don't know, that is where I really feel the most rejuvenated. And I think it's important that we remember that, like, our bodies, our minds, and our time are our biggest assets, and when we care for them in anti-capitalist and communal ways, we acknowledge both the fragility and the strength of the body, as well as its ability to be a conduit for, like, liberation and connection to liberation. So yeah, that's that. I did.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I got in my feels today.
A little
Yeah, the holiday seasons are a bittersweet time in that I don't like have really any family, like traditional family to spend it with. And that's the bitter, and the sweet is that like every single year I experience family in a different way, and I experience community and belonging in a different way. And I think that's another way, and I think your people experience time differently. But anyways,
Yeah.
so I'm just like so very grateful for the holidays because it's this bittersweet time of reflecting on what I have like lost over the years, but remembering how grateful I am for like what I have, and like what I found along the way. And it's just like I'm always grateful for like a moment of reflection.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I hope that all of you have some kind of family to spend this week with.
Even
This
if it's your
episode's
cat.
coming out on Christmas, so
We ain't taking no weeks off, ho. No days off.
not
Even
for
though we've
Jesus.
yeah, not even for that bitch. Listen.
But yeah, I've been experiencing a lot of different kinds of family. Friend family is stronger than ever before. I feel so extremely blessed with the friends in my life. And I'm gonna go spend time with my ancestral family this week. And I've been feeling family in my home. I feel so safe here with my partner, with my cats. I feel family with my plants. I was just talking about this earlier, like all my plants in here are from different people that I love, and like they're all here with me. Like this bitch is so tall, just like you, and I'm just
You
like,
have-
oh, you're literally.
You
here
literally
with
have the
me.
crown of her. This is her crown. Like
I dropped her,
it's okay. She kind of
but
needed it.
worms love it. So.
Oh, they do watch.
Mhm.
Okay. Hey yo. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you.
And if you are spending the holidays alone, know that that's okay. I'm
Yeah.
also kind of spending the holiday alone. But like, call the people you love. Just because you can't physically be with them, like, doesn't mean you can't like sit down and have a conversation on the phone. Take yourself out, get a little meal. I'm going to see the new A24 movie, Baby Girl, Nicole Kidman, on Christmas. So go see a movie. And thank the motherfuckers working because dude, that's Christmas.
Yeah.
Thank you for
If you're working,
thank you for like
sorry.
setting the stage for my ability to watch Nicole Kidman get absolutely like railed
Yeah.
for like an hour and 45 minutes on
Oh
Christmas
my
Day.
God.
Like y'all are the reason that
I
I like
know.
don't feel so sad and trapped in the house.
That used to be me when I
Like,
worked at the movie theater.
y'all
on
are the
Christmas.
y'all. Happy holidays.
I love you.
I love you. We'll see you on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Next episode comes out 2nd of June.
Our finale.
Yeah, sorry, time doesn't exist right now. I'm on break. I'm on break. So like right now, I'm like, I'm not on a fucking schedule. I don't have shit to do. Like, I don't know. But yeah, so we'll see you in like 2.5 weeks. Yeah, bye, Diva.
2 weeks.
Bye, Diva.